little one. Join us!
The Ittan-momen is known as one of the most iconic traditional Japanese yokai, but when you envision its form, what kind of imagery truly manifests in the depths of your mind? For many, the first image that appears is likely the charming, somewhat comical character from the works of the legendary Shigeru Mizuki, a friendly sheet of cloth flying through the air to aid his companions. However, the original form preserved in ancient folklore is far removed from such approachable, endearing depictions. If we peel back the layers of modern adaptation and look into the raw historical accounts, we find a creature that is devoid of warmth or whimsy, possessing instead a cold, mechanical, and predatory intent that chills the very soul. This entity, which has been spoken of since ancient times, primarily in the Osumi region of Kagoshima Prefecture, is characterized by a terrifyingly aggressive nature, acting as a silent airborne executioner that wraps itself around the necks of unsuspecting travelers to induce a slow and agonizing suffocation. Imagine a moonlit path where the air is thick with humidity, and the only sound is the rhythmic crunch of your own footsteps on the gravel. Suddenly, a streak of pure, brilliant white cuts through the darkness, moving with a fluid grace that defies the laws of physics. It does not flutter like a piece of laundry caught in a breeze. It swims through the atmosphere with the calculated precision of a shark in deep water. This entity, an inanimate object seemingly granted, a malevolent consciousness descends from the canopy with a singular purpose to hunt. The descriptions of this phenomenon, involving a silent, featureless white object performing impossible aerial maneuvers, show a chilling and undeniable correlation with modern accounts of unidentified flying objects, or UFOs. Today, we will embark on an exhaustive exploration of the terror surrounding the Ittan-momen, peeling back the folklore to examine the entity through the lens of modern science, high-tech military hypothesis, and the startling possibility of extraterrestrial intervention. Is the Ittan-momen merely a phantom born of cloth and superstition? Or is it a remnant of an advanced, misunderstood technology that has been observing humanity for centuries? The birthplace of the Ittan-momen is said to be the town of Takayama, in the Kimotsuki district of Kagoshima Prefecture, a land where the mountains meet the sea and the shadows seem to linger longer than elsewhere. In this specific geographical pocket, accounts of white, cloth-like objects soaring through the twilight sky have been recorded for generations. The name itself reflects its physical dimensions, as an ittan is a traditional unit of measurement for fabric, roughly 10 meters in length and 30 centimeters in width. In the context of the Edo period, this was a standard size for a roll of cotton, yet the question remains as to why a utilitarian object would ever need to take flight. When we analyze the oral traditions and local manuscripts of the region, it becomes clear that this object was never merely floating or drifting. It moved with a discernible sentient will. Witnesses from centuries ago described seeing a long, pale streak weaving through the dense branches of ancient forests, moving at speeds that no bird could match. They spoke of the psychological dread that preceded its appearance, a sudden drop in temperature, and a crushing sense of being watched by something that lacked eyes. One account tells of a man walking home at dusk when he felt a sudden, icy draft against the nape of his neck, followed by the sensation of a cold, smooth surface grazing his skin. When he turned, there was nothing but the vanishing silhouette of a white ribbon disappearing into the clouds. For the people of Osumi, the Ittan-momen was not a story told to entertain children. It was a physical threat that dictated where one could walk after the sun had dipped below the horizon. Why did these specific, highly detailed sightings cluster so densely in this particular region? Think for a moment about why a specific entity would be tied so inextricably to a single location. Could it be the unique atmospheric conditions, the specific magnetic signature of the Kyushu Mountains, or perhaps a cultural memory of a singular traumatic event that occurred in the distant past? I would be very interested to hear your theories on why certain yokai seem to claim specific territories. Please share your thoughts and hypotheses in the comments section below. Now, let us turn our attention to the physical characteristics and the baffling flight mechanics of the Ittan-momen from a more technical perspective. One of the most consistent details in historical sightings is that the object does not rely on the wind to move, even on nights where the air was completely stagnant. Where not a single leaf on a willow tree would stir, the Ittan-momen was observed, propelling itself through the sky as if it were navigating through water. From the standpoint of modern aerodynamics, this is an impossibility for a simple piece of fabric. A cloth has no rigid structure to maintain an airfoil shape, and it certainly possesses no visible means of propulsion such as wings or engines. Yet it moves with purpose and high velocity. If we apply the cutting-edge theories of contemporary physics, we are forced to consider the possibility of a propulsion system that does not rely on lift, but perhaps on the manipulation of gravity or the creation of a localized vacuum. The dimensions of the Ittan-momen, being 10 meters long and 30 centimeters wide, are actually quite efficient for a certain type of hypothetical flight. A thin, elongated, and flat geometry allows for a massive surface area relative to its thickness, which could facilitate rapid changes in direction through undulation, much like the movement of a ribbon eel in the ocean. This design would minimize drag while maximizing the potential for sudden, erratic maneuvers that would baffle any pursuer. Furthermore, some accounts mention that the Ittan-momen emitted a faint, ethereal glow, or possessed a degree of transparency, that allowed the stars to be seen through its body. This suggests that we are not dealing with organic fibers like cotton, but perhaps a state of matter such as cold plasma, or a highly advanced energy field that has taken on a semi-solid form. If people living in the 17th or 18th centuries were to witness a low-altitude, reconnaissance drone equipped with active optical camouflage or a shimmering energy-based entity, they would lack the scientific vocabulary to describe it. They would look for the closest possible analog in their daily lives. A long, thin, white object moving through the air would naturally be described as a roll of cotton. This linguistic bridge allowed them to categorize the uncategorizable, turning a potential encounter with advanced technology into a manageable piece of folklore. They were defining a phenomenon that defied their understanding, using the only tools they had: their own eyes and their most common materials. This leads us to a fascinating comparison with modern reports of unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs, from around the globe. In recent years, the declassification of military footage by the United States Department of Defense has brought to light objects that exhibit flight characteristics, strikingly similar to those of the Ittan-momen. There are accounts of what investigators call flying humanoids or ribbon-shaped UFOs, long, flexible entities that move at hypersonic speeds without generating a sonic boom or visible exhaust. The behavior of the Ittan-momen, specifically its tendency to wrap around the necks of humans, takes on a sinister new meaning in this context. Rather than a simple act of ghostly malice, this could be interpreted as a programmed tactical maneuver. From a drone-centric perspective, the act of constriction could be a method of immobilization for the purpose of biological sampling or the neutralization of a potential threat to the craft's mission. If an autonomous scout from a non-human intelligence were tasked with gathering data on local inhabitants, an encounter with a human would necessitate a quick, silent way to subdue the subject. To an observer in the Edo period, a sleek, white, automated capture device would look exactly like a haunted piece of cloth seeking to strangle its prey. When we view these legends through this lens, the folklore of Japan ceases to be mere fiction and begins to look like a historical archive of extraterrestrial or high-tech activity on Earth, recorded by witnesses who did not yet know the words for robotics or interstellar travel. We must also address the visceral aggression and the biological anomalies associated with the Ittan-momen. Traditional accounts state that once the cloth covers a person's face, it will not let go until the victim has ceased to breathe. This is a highly efficient strategic method of killing that requires a certain level of tactile feedback and awareness. If this were a simple autonomous weapon, it would be designed for stealth and lethality, approaching its target without a sound, and neutralizing them with minimal energy expenditure. Even more disturbing are the tales of those who attempted to defend themselves. There are stories of samurai who managed to strike the Ittan-momen with their katanas. In some versions, the blade passes through the cloth, as if it were cutting through flesh, and to the horror of the onlookers. Actual red blood begins to spray from the wound. In other versions, the blade is deflected with a metallic ring, as if the cloth were made of reinforced steel. These contradictory reports point toward a material that is far more complex than cotton. We might be looking at a description of a programmable matter or a biometallic, alloy a substance that can remain flexible and soft one moment, then transition to a hardened, defensive state the next. The sight of a piece of fabric bleeding is an image of profound ontological horror, blurring the line between the organic and the inorganic. It suggests a level of bioengineering that even today we are only beginning to conceptualize. Have you ever experienced a sensation of pure existential dread when confronted with something that seemed to bridge the gap between a machine and a living creature? If you have ever encountered an object that seemed to possess a will of its own, I would be fascinated to hear your story. Furthermore, the specific locations where the Ittan-momen appears offer another layer of mystery. As mentioned, the Osumi region is not only a hotbed for ancient spirits, but is now the site of Japan's primary space center. This connection between the ancient and the futuristic is startling. Places that are close to the gateway of space or areas where the Earth's crust exhibits peculiar magnetic properties often seem to be the preferred haunts of these white, fluttering entities. Is it possible that the Ittan-momen is utilizing localized gravitational anomalies or dimensional rifts to enter our reality? A two-dimensional, cloth-like shape would be the most energy-efficient form for a being or a craft, attempting to transition through a narrow wormhole or move between higher dimensions. From the perspective of a higher dimensional entity, our three-dimensional world might appear as flat as a sheet of paper. To move through our space, they might adopt a form that allows them to slide through the fabric of our reality like a needle through silk. In this sense, the Ittan-momen is not a monster from the past, but a visitor from a realm where geometry and physics function on a level we can barely imagine. They are observers who have mastered the art of existing on the periphery of our perception. As we dig deeper into the historical roots, some scholars suggest that the Ittan-momen was originally regarded as a messenger of the local deities, or kami. Its frequent sightings near sacred shrines or old battlefields suggest that it might be drawn to areas with high concentrations of residual psychic energy or spiritual significance. In Japanese culture, white cloth has always been a sacred medium. It is used in the kyokata-bira, the burial shroud that prepares the deceased for the journey to the next world, and in the shide, the zigzag paper streamers used in Shinto rituals to demarcate the boundary between the human and the divine. The Ittan-momen could be a manifestation of this spiritual energy, a bridge between the world of the living and the world of the dead. Its dual nature as a physical object that can be touched or cut, and as an ethereal entity that can vanish into thin air is exactly what elevates it beyond the status of a common monster. This leads us to a haunting question. Why have sightings of the Ittan-momen seemingly decreased in the modern era? Or have they simply evolved to match our current world? The sky today is a crowded, noisy place, filled with the constant drone of engines and the invisible hum of telecommunications. Perhaps the entity that was once known as the Ittan-momen has simply adapted its camouflage. What was once a roll of cotton might now appear as a stray piece of plastic caught in a high altitude. Thermal, or a peculiar, elongated cloud that moves against the wind. Even with our global network of satellites and radar, there are still countless reports of fast-moving white streaks that are dismissed as sensor glitches or optical illusions. They have not disappeared. They have simply integrated themselves into the background noise of a complex technological civilization. They are watching us from the blind spots of our own instruments. What do you believe is the true nature of the Ittan-momen? Is it a vengeful spirit from the ancient folklore of Kagoshima, a biological scout from a distant star system, or perhaps a piece of reconnaissance hardware from a future version of ourselves? Through our journey today, one thing has become undeniably clear: there is a presence in our skies that refuses to be categorized by our conventional logic. The entity we call the Ittan-momen has survived through the centuries, shifting its shape in our collective consciousness, but always retaining its core of mystery and terror. It challenges our understanding of the universe and reminds us that there are still horizons we have yet to cross. The next time you look up at a clear blue sky and see a stray fragment of a white cloud, take a moment to observe it closely. If it begins to move with a rhythmic, serpentine grace, you might just be looking at the very thing that the people of Osumi feared the most. We live in a world where we crave answers, yet we are constantly confronted by the inexplicable. The word yokai was a way for our ancestors to give a face and a name to the shadows, a way to structure the unknown so that it wouldn't overwhelm the human mind. But beneath the name, the reality of the Ittan-momen remains a profound enigma, a white ribbon of mystery stretching across the centuries into the vast, dark expanse of the cosmos. To uncover its secret is to understand something fundamental about the nature of our reality. If you should ever find yourself on a lonely road at night and see a pale shape dancing in the air, do not turn away. It may be the key to the greatest mystery humanity has ever faced. The Ittan-momen is a name that carries the weight of history and the chill of the unknown. Whether we view it as a ghost, a machine, or a visitor, its presence serves as a reminder that the world is far more mysterious than we often care to admit. The blend of physical aggression, spiritual symbolism, and technological strangeness makes this one of the most compelling subjects in the study of the supernatural. Did any part of today's discussion resonate with a story you've heard or a strange occurrence in your own life? If you have even the smallest piece of information or a personal encounter that seems to connect with these theories, please let us know. Your testimony could be the final piece of the puzzle that reveals the true identity of this sky-dwelling phantom. If you found this deep dive into the mysteries of the Ittan-momen thought-provoking, please consider subscribing to the channel to join our ongoing investigation into the world's most enduring enigmas. Your support allows us to continue peeling back the veil of the unknown. Also, hitting the like button helps share this mystery with others who may hold the answers we seek. Be careful when you walk through the shadows, and remember that the wind isn't always just the wind. I look forward to seeing you in the next exploration. Thank you very much for watching until the very end.